everybody. Really glad to be with you this week. It's October 4th when we're recording this, and this is the day that the annual Sisters in Spirit Vigils are happening right across the country. And I'm looking forward to attending the one in Toronto at Allen Gardens this afternoon. Hope you get a chance to come out to that as well. I also wanted to let you know, last week I talked a little bit about a demonstration happening on October 6th, and I didn't have all of the information about it. It's an anti-war demonstration sponsored by Toronto Coalition to Stop the War, and it's happening on Saturday, October 6th. And I wanted to let you know that that demonstration is actually at 2 p.m. I believe we gave you that information on the screen, but I had talked about it starting a bit earlier. But it's actually at 2 p.m. at Queen's Park. There will be a rally at Queen's Park. The theme is that we want to demand that our government not promote and support war on Iran. And so if you have a chance on Saturday afternoon to come down to Queen's Park at 2 p.m., please do that and join many, many other concerned people who definitely are wanting to support the rights of Iranian people, wanting to see that government stop its repression of people through laws and through crackdowns, certainly wanting to stop tensions in the region, but do not believe that waging war, attacking Iran is the way to go. So definitely check that out. I also wanted to tell you about a couple of things this week that are coming up and that are on the, not in the news so much. And so I wanted to let you know about them. But first, I wanted to pay tribute, along with so many others, in mourning the passing of Charles Roach. Charles passed away after a long illness on Tuesday, October the 2nd. And Charles, for those of you who didn't know him, was an amazing human rights activist and community advocate in Toronto for many, many, many years. There's an editorial today, or a story about his work in the Star today, but really one article can't capture all of the amazing work that he did. And he was really someone who not only was an activist, but also contributed to community in just so many different ways, culturally, as a poet, as a musician, as a community builder, as a lawyer. And so I just wanted to say how much he will be missed, and to add my voice to the many, many others who mourn the loss of this really, really important person in Toronto's history. Charlie was one of the founders, along with the late Dudley Laws and the late Sharona Hall and Lennox Farrell, of the Black Action Defense Committee. That group came into existence, I believe, in the 80s, because of the shootings of black men that were occurring by Toronto police. The Black Action Defense Committee was the lone voice against police brutality for many, many years in Toronto. And Charlie was one of those voices calling for more civilian oversight of the police and more accountability for the brutality, for the shootings, for the beatings and the racial profiling and racism that has been the terrible legacy of the Toronto police and many other police forces for so many years. His activism led in part to the establishment of the Special Investigations Unit. He was also one of the co-founders of the original Caravana celebrations in Toronto. He was a poet and a frequent contributor to Sunday poetry at the Ellington's Cafe on St. Clair Avenue West. He was one of the partners in Roach, Schwartz and Associates, which is a legal firm that does amazing, amazing work in pursuit of protection of people's human rights in many, many different areas. And, you know, we could go on and on. He's just been a wonderful, wonderful advocate. One of his battles that continued until his death was to be able to receive his citizenship in Canada without swearing an oath of allegiance to the Queen. Mr. Roach found that, believed that swearing an oath of allegiance to a monarchy, to an oppressive regime, to a third party outside of Canada did not make any sense, and I'm totally, paraphrasing, his reasons would be much more profound than what I'm telling you right now. But he took that important stand and didn't give up, even though he faced, he wanted to be a citizen of Canada, but he refused to do that on those terms, and must be applauded for sticking to his beliefs right until the end. So we mourn the passing. We, pick up that torch. We must keep working very, very hard for on the issues that Charles championed throughout his life. Certainly police brutality, police accountability, the importance of the cultural life, the importance of communities having control over their cultural life, and the importance of Canada's sovereignty, and then all of the people's sovereignty within Canada, of course. These are all issues that we need to continue to fight for. I also would, so on to a couple of events coming up, or one event and one piece of news that you may not be aware of. At City Council, now I'm sure you've been watching the shenanigans. We got Gord Perks facing off against Giorgio Mammoliti. We've got our ombudsperson making Fiona Crean bringing a report today about possible interference by politicians in the selection process for people for boards and commissions of the city. Very problematic. We've got Giorgio Mammoliti threatening staff and saying that they have been political just because he doesn't agree with what they say, and because they tried to point out that somebody he was wanting to appoint to a committee had a possible conflict of interest. We've got the Ford Follies, always ongoing, of course. We've got the reversal of the decision around the Jarvis bike lanes. Just one of the stupidest decisions ever, to spend $300,000 out of the cycling budget, folks, on putting back the fifth lane on Jarvis and taking out bike lanes off of Jarvis. Bike lanes that have been shown that do not cause delays in traffic. In fact, one driver wrote to the Star today and said that, in fact, their trip is faster down Jarvis because they don't have to wait for people constantly pulling over to the side to parallel park. The bike lanes protected bicyclists and protected cars in terms of cars being able to know exactly where cyclists were. I use those lanes every day to go to work and back home, and the decision to take them out is ridiculous. So, City Hall is pooping along the way it always does. But one of the things that City Council has been talking about that we need to be concerned about, especially as members of equity-seeking groups like the LGBT community, is that some councillors have asked the executive committee and city staff to once again revise the city's anti-discrimination policy. The city has a very progressive anti-discrimination policy that all agencies, programs, projects, people doing business with the city must adhere to, and it's an anti-discrimination policy that basically outlines the grounds that one is not able, or an agency is not able, to discriminate against people based on. They're in line with the Ontario Human Rights Code and other legislation, and the city's anti-discrimination policy is actually quite progressive as written. You'll remember that during the first, I think it was 2010, during that Pride, when the issue of queers against Israeli apartheid first came up, and we fought that battle to defend free speech in the Pride Parade, and also to defend the right of queer-led groups, no matter what their politics, to be able to march in that parade. You'll remember then that people wanted to ban the phrase Israeli apartheid. Many people find it offensive. They don't believe that it accurately describes the situation in Israel. And so but what they want to do, rather than just disagreeing, which everybody has a right to do, we all have our own views on these things, rather than doing that, what these folks seek to do is ban the use of those words altogether. This despite the fact that many world leaders have referred to Israel's practices and policies in Palestine and in the occupied territories as, in fact, akin to or a form of apartheid. So what is happening right now that you should know about is that the executive committee, the mayor's executive committee, blocked a revised anti-discrimination policy. They've sent it back to city staff for further revision. And they want to do things. They're requiring city staff to take the policy, and they've made proposals to go beyond, and I'm quoting, go beyond provincial and federal statutes and legislation. So they want to create an anti-discrimination policy that in fact is outside of and superseding the laws of the land. The legislation is set out in the Ontario Human Rights Code, for example, in the Federal Human Rights Code. They want to include in our anti-discrimination policy, which right now is very specific about equity-seeking groups and their rights to protection from discrimination, bias, and oppression. They want to now include phrases such as, quote, anything which shows a lack of respect for all persons, end of quote. Folks, this represents a watering down and a mushing of the anti-discrimination policy so that it means nothing. Anything which shows a lack of respect for all persons means that we are not, we don't have an anti-discrimination policy that understands and that promotes the equity of and the equality of equity-seeking groups and protects particularly minorities like the LGBT community, racialized communities, and others. What instead is being proposed is a policy that would in fact make it illegal, anti-legislation or anti-the policy to say anything that's offensive to anybody. And we know that that road leads down to not being able to express any political opinion that is outside the mainstream. And this is obviously not the way to go. They also want staff to single out Pride Toronto for special treatment. The imposition of a condition of the funding for the 2013 Pride event that the term Israeli apartheid not be permitted to be used as part of the event. This is discriminatory in and of itself because it singles out an equity-seeking event or a group, an event that is for an equity-seeking group for special treatment and different treatment than any other group across the city. This kind of action trivializes the real discrimination faced by equity-seeking people and designated groups. It opens the door to very, very frivolous complaints and use of city resources. So I haven't got much time, but I just want you to be watching the Facebook page of Queers for Social Justice. Look out at the Rise Up newsletter and other sources in the LGBT community for action against this. And what we hope to do is create a letter that people can send to their counselor. You can certainly contact your counselor anytime to protest this. So make yourself aware of this. Look, as I say, on Facebook for Queers for Social Justice for news about action that we want to take against this move to water down our discrimination policy. That's it till next week. I'll bring you more news about that and other events. Thanks.